You're listening to Giles Brown on Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain. Crypto Confidential tells the story of the industry everybody is talking about right now, shedding light on some of the most scandalous financial crimes in the 21st century. It is the new book by Jake Donoghue. Delighted to say that Jake joins me live on the line now. Jake, good morning to you.
Morning, Giles. How's it going?
Very well, thank you. It's an industry that we kind of all know about. We know that people were getting involved with it. Then it seemed that the bubble burst. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and what made you want to write this book.
Yeah, absolutely, Giles. So I used to work in the cryptocurrency industry. So back in 2021, when the industry was really seeing a major resurgence, a real boom, myself and some colleagues set up our own crypto product. So it was a kind of win-only casino. So we set that up. We launched cryptocurrency onto the market, and that performed incredibly well, as many were performing back then. So that went up by about 12,000% in price on the day it was listed. So we listed it at about a $3 million market cap. And within a few hours, it was at over $300 million. So from that, we then spun out a marketing agency working with some very, very big players in the space, some of the leading firms, some of the leading individuals in the cryptocurrency industry. And that's when we really started to see kind of, just how bad it was, how pervasive the fraud was, the scale of the financial crimes taking place. And then, we did that for a few years. And then I left the industry back in 2022, at the end of 2022, when the collapse of FTX, the very large crypto exchange, the fraudulent crypto exchange, happened. And then, wrote Crypto Confidential. So kind of tell all kind of wall-to-wall expose of how the industry really operates, how these frauds are orchestrated, and what the people running the industry are really like behind closed doors as well.
Because it's really interesting, conversations that I was having with people at the time when crypto was really taking off, it sort of captured the imagination, and perhaps it was the perfect thing at the perfect time, because a lot of investors, a lot of ordinary people were fed up with the banks. The banking system was having a really bad time. And I remember, because I didn't get involved in crypto, but people saying, you must do, because we're forming our own cash society. This is getting away from, realistic cash you can hold in your hands. This is a new system. We're going to stick it to the man, basically. And it was idealistic as well as being very profitable.
Yeah, well, exactly, Giles. I think that's a lot of reason why crypto saw such vast adoption, especially, a few years ago when this whole narrative, this whole narrative of, peer-to-peer payments, getting rid of the banks, building, our own financial system, returning power to the people, all these narratives were really being pushed very hard. Now, you don't really hear that anymore, because a lot of those kind of so-called decentralized projects, they all collapsed. And, people realized quite quickly that not only were they not decentralized, but actually they were either very vulnerable to exploits, so to hacks and to kind of malicious activities, or they were just, outright frauds. And then now, a lot of them don't exist anymore. A lot of the founders of those projects have run off with the vast sums which they managed to extricate from investors. So now that narrative's gone, and actually what you're seeing now is crypto looking to the mainstream, so to the institutions who initially they were very against, and who actually, the whole point of crypto was to be against these institutions. Now everyone in the industry is looking for these institutions to funnel more money into the industry. So you're looking at, all these banks, these asset managers launching Bitcoin ETFs, so exchange traded funds. Everyone's clamoring for that. Everyone is looking for endorsements from, Donald Trump and people in the political mainstream. So, that narrative around decentralization and, the kind of future of finance has completely gone out the window, basically. And that happened in 2022 when all these projects, either collapsed or just defrauded their investors.
So is it a case that people just got carried away and were so caught up in the rush that they didn't stop to ask themselves, would they have done this, if you like, in the real world? And there were nefarious organizations and individuals and criminal gangs who could spot them coming a mile off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's very much what it is. It's, people saw this new technology, didn't really understand how it worked, but saw the price of Bitcoin just going up and up and up, and, over $50,000, $60,000 per Bitcoin. And, all of that happened in a very, very short space of time. And then people, in the industry, it's called FOMO, so fear of missing out. So people piled into it, they were investing in something which they, may not necessarily have understood how the tech worked. But predominantly, I think a lot of people didn't really care. They wanted the asset price appreciation. They wanted to, for lack of a better phrase, get rich quick. And then, when the early adopters, people who had bought in very early on, when they started taking profits, when they started, offloading their Bitcoin, their cryptocurrency holdings, and the prices started going down, a lot of, the kind of new investors, I think, got spooked as well. And then, that just led to a mass exodus of the industry. And also, I think, people aren't used to that scale of fraud. So when FTX collapsed, this was a company which was, they were buying naming rights to stadiums. They had, the biggest celebrities. They had Tom Brady, the huge NFL star, endorsing the exchange. That brought a lot of people in. But then when people realized just what they were doing with their customer funds, they were embezzling it. They were, gambling it away in the leveraged trading markets. People were outraged by that. They had never experienced, fraud of that scale before. And so a lot of people panicked and rightly left the industry. And, reputationally, I don't think it's ever really recovered from that. So while the prices may now be looking, somewhat buoyant again, I think, there's very few new people actually entering the space. I think most of those price appreciations taking place now are people already in the space just adding more to their positions. So yeah, I think reputationally the industry really is not looking great at the moment.
And of course, being all online, it opened itself up to a variety of abuses and misuses. And as I said before, the checks and balances, perhaps for people who wanted to get rid of large amounts of cash without it being noticed. And as I said before, hacking, etc. This had an effect. What's it like sitting in the inside? And when did the warning bells start to go off for you?
Well, yeah, right from the start. When we were launching our first cryptocurrency token, we were obviously, making connections within the space. We had contacts within the space already, and we're expanding those out. And, we started to see a lot of people we knew acting, fraudulently. One thing which happens a lot in the space is actually a lot of the hacks which take place are projects hacking themselves. So people who have raised a lot of money from, selling tokens to investors, they then want a quick exit route. So what they'll do is they will fake a hack. And they'll make it seem like some malicious actor, hacked the protocol or whatever and stole the funds. But actually, it was the team themselves. It was their own CTO, their chief technical officer, who orchestrated it and made it look like someone else did it. So, yeah, we saw these things right from the start. And that's on the technical side of things as well. In terms of the promotion of it as well, there was a lot of malpractice there, kind of paying influencers and celebrities to, promote these tokens without disclosing them.
So they were actually hacking their own funds or people's funds to make it look as if we've been hacked, we've lost the money, we'll try and get it back for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that happens very often. That's when people are trying to be a bit more sophisticated and a bit more subtle about it. What often happens more often than not is they'll just take the money and run away. They'll just drain all the funds from it's called a liquidity pool, but they'll drain all the funds from the platform that these tokens are being traded on, and then they'll just leave. A lot of the people who set up crypto projects are completely anonymous. They have no public profile. You don't know anything about them. They might just have like a kind of anonymous Twitter profile or whatever. So really, there's nothing holding them to this project. So they're very happy to just kind of take the money and run. Because
we've heard, people, isn't it the queen of crypto? Didn't she go missing, or she faked her death, or nobody's quite sure who, what, or where? And there are cases of them literally disappearing off the face of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. That was the OneCoin crypto scam. Yeah, so they call her the missing crypto queen. There's various stories or rumors about what happened to her. Some say that she died. Some say she faked her own death. But this goes right back to the very start of the industry with the first the exchanges. Quadriga, the founder there, again, I believe faked his own death as well. So these things are all very common in the industry. These kind of massive tens, hundreds of millions, or even $billion frauds or hacks.
Presumably,
happens every day.
Yeah, presumably the forces of legislation. Who under whose jurisdictions does this fall? If it's an international crypto network, is it the states who's looking after this? Is it where they actually are based? Presumably is it offshore. Where are the majority of these companies? They're on the web, but do they have physical addresses, or how does it work?
Well, this is exactly it, Giles. This is the problem. The problem is that most of the crimes which take place in crypto are already illegal.
Right.
And even, things which aren't, in themselves kind of inherently, I guess criminal, but like, for example, leverage trading. So trading cryptocurrencies on leverage, that's already outlawed in Europe. So the European Securities and Markets Authority already bans that. However, it's very, very easy for people to bypass that. So they just need a very basic VPN to access a leverage trading account.
And leverage is basically where you put money in, but it's got a multiplying factor. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. So you can trade with $100 in your account, but you're basically borrowing from the exchange. So then you can have a position worth, $1,000, $10,000, that kind of thing. Now that's outlawed, but people do it anyway. The problem is it's difficult to hold these crypto projects, these crypto companies to account because a lot of them are registered in shell companies. In the Seychelles, the BVI, Panama, Curacao, that kind of thing, where, their practices aren't illegal. And, they'll say that actually, well, we don't offer our services to people in the UK or people in the US, but that's actually not true. Even though they might have a very basic, screening process on their site, which stops people from accessing it. Really, that's incredibly flimsy. And they actually, they are marketing in jurisdictions where they are banned. So, it's really difficult to actually, get rid of a lot of the crime and the fraud in crypto because, there really isn't any kind of, coordinated international, effort to crack down on this.
And presumably, as I'll go back to this again, the money laundering. I mean, if you have a cartel, for example, and you have an awful lot, or you've got an international criminal gang, and you've got an awful lot of money that you need to get washed through the system very quickly, this is an absolute sort of golden opportunity for you.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's one of the primary uses of crypto is money laundering. We had people offering this to us as well. We had something called a market maker. So people who kind of do your trading for you, they manage your liquidity and that kind of thing. They were offering us money laundering services. And yeah, I mean, a lot of kind of regulators, a lot of enforcement agencies are looking to clamp down on money laundering and crypto at the moment. So there's a project called Tether, which is a stable coin. So they've created a crypto token, which is pegged to the dollar. Now they're under active investigation by the US and the UK at the moment for their role in sanctions evasion. So Russia and, kind of Russian groups and, the Russian state really is using Tether, was suspected to be using Tether and other cryptocurrencies to evade sanctions, to do business with other countries, which they're currently not allowed to.
It's interesting because whenever I put on my phone and I go through my social media, there'll be a crypto ad popping up saying, the crypto's gone down again, it's bound to go up again, get involved. So, they're still out there operating. I mean, is there any way that you think that we can be relatively safe in the industry?
I think the best way to stay safe is really to just avoid it. I mean, anyone who thinks that they have an in or, some kind of way of making money in crypto is either being, disingenuous or either trying to sell you something like a trading program or whatever, or that they're really very naive. I mean, it really is, kind of cartel of insiders who really run the whole industry. And yeah, I mean, by the time you've heard of a crypto token, you hear people talking about it, influencers on Instagram or whatever, being like, oh, this token's gonna, it'll make you rich. By the time you've heard of a token, there's no chance whatsoever that you'll make any money on it. It's the insiders, it's the founders, it's the influencers promoting it who have all, they're all going to be making money. They're all holding, huge amounts of it, and they're just waiting for, retail investors to come in so that they can offload their holdings. They can what's called dump their bags on retail. So, it really is every kind of financial going on in the industry. There's market manipulation. There's insider trading. There's all these things going on. So, the deck really is stacked against retail users.
Yeah, anybody who got involved with pyramid schemes, etc., in the 80s and 90s will recognize that one, because by the time you get involved, the guys at the top have already taken their cut.
Well, exactly.
So, presumably, this book hasn't made you very popular in the industry. Jake, I mean, what are you expecting sort of the reaction to be? Or you're pleased with the reaction thus far?
The reactions have really been mixed, Giles. So there have been some people, even in the industry, even people heavily invested in the industry, who are quite appreciative of the book. A lot of people in the industry do want to see it cleaned up. They do want to see, the frauds and a lot of the things which cause reputational damage to the industry, eradicated. So, there have been people who have been saying, well, this book, shines a light on that. It shows people, how these scams operate. And, that's an inherently good thing, keeping people safe. But then there are people who, the kind of more, I guess, evangelistic or, kind of die-hard proponents of the space who are, who aren't happy with the book. Especially some of the insiders who, they don't want their secrets revealed. Basically, they don't want people knowing how these scams are operated. They don't want people knowing their methods and that kind of thing. They're very unhappy with this book, and that's manifested in kind of social media. I get a lot of vitriolic comments sometimes on social media, especially when I call out publicly specific companies or individuals who are acting unethically. So yeah, there has been some backlash to it, but largely a positive response as well from people who want to see the industry cleaned up.
What do you hope that people will take from Crypto Confidential? Is it buyer beware, be careful out there? I mean, what do you hope that people will learn from the book?
Well, I hope that it shows people how the industry really operates, and ultimately, I hope that it keeps people away from it. I think it is really a crazy story, and it's nothing like this has ever really been seen. Even kind of going back to the penny stock mania and, everything that was happening back then. I mean, it all really pales in comparison to this. I mean, like the collapse of Luna, for example, that was $36 billion, $36 billion company just wiped out in 3 days. That's bigger than Enron. That's bigger than, it's around the same size as the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. But that unraveled over weeks, months, even years, whereas this was, 72 hours and it was all gone. So, nothing like this has really ever been seen. So I think the story is inherently interesting, and hopefully, it'll serve as something of a cautionary tale as well.
You'll be able to order the book from our own virtual bookstore. If people want to find you online and say hello in the nicest possible way, where's the best place to find you, Jake?
Yeah, so I'm active on Twitter. So I'm at J Donoghue author. That's Donoghue, Donoghue. So yeah, you can find me on there, and always very happy to interact.
The book is called Crypto Confidential. It's by Jake Donoghue, we're speaking to today. Jake, thank you so much for your time today.
Giles, thanks so much. Pleasure.